Daucus carota, Queen Anne's lace, bird's nest, the wild carrot. This plant goes by many names and it's easy to see why. It has so many distinctive features, each incredibly unique from the other. Today, I'd like to tell you folks all about some of the identifying factors of the Daucus carota's life cycle, some of the uses for the plant, where to find it, and about its noxious weed status in many states, and its deep history in agriculture. That being said, let's just get right into it. Daucus carota is a biennial plant, meaning that it has a life cycle of only 2 years. During the first year, the plant begins to establish a rosette of foliage and a root system. There are no flowers during this stage. That comes during the second year. In its second year, the plant produces these umbels of many 5 little petaled flowers. The anthers, or male reproductive organs of the plant, open up first, releasing the pollen. Then, via the effort of some hard-working bugs, this pollen gets moved to the stigma, or the female reproductive part in the flowers. The wild carrot has both male and female reproductive organs on one plant, which is counterintuitive to many unfamiliar with botany. However, this is common for many plant species. Hopefully, with each seed cycle, many plants were able to cross-pollinate to create a more genetically diverse population. Once pollinated, seeds are formed and the plant curls up, as shown here, to protect the seeds as they strengthen. Come fall, the curled umbel will fall off. It will have hardened and developed spurs that stick to both traveling animals and people, spreading the seeds far and wide. Then, the parent will die, and the cycle will begin anew. When searching for these plants in the wild, exercise the utmost levels of caution. Daucus carota has many lookalikes to the untrained eye. One of these lookalikes that is of particular concern is poison hemlock. Beyond poison hemlock, the plant can also resemble yarrow, and the foliage can sometimes resemble mayweed. While I won't go too heavily into the details of distinctions and identifications, I'll include some resources in the description down below. One thing that strongly sets Daucus carota apart from these other plants is the bristly hairs that stick out from the stem. Yarrow does have hairs on its stem, but they rest on it more like cobwebs, while Daucus carota stick out like small needles on a cacti. The leaves are very sharply broken up and look essentially identical to their cultivated carrot counterparts. What you probably know best of this plant is its flowers. Many of these tiny white petaled flowers form the umbel shape I mentioned earlier. Sometimes, in Daucus carota, you'll see this darkly colored floret in the middle of the flower clusters. There doesn't appear to be a clear trend in which individual plants have these, and no one is entirely sure what purpose they serve. Some suspect that they're meant to trick pollinators into thinking that it's the hind end of some potential mate, while others think that it's just an artifact of the plant's anatomy that is neither beneficial nor harmful. Next for identification is the carrot in wild carrots. When you pull the plant up, you'll see this robust taproot that loosely looks like something that we may recognize as a cultivated carrot. Now, the carrot I'm holding here isn't something you would ever actually want to eat. By this point in the plant's life, the root has become far too fibrous and bitter. If you want to eat the root, it is best to wait for fall of the plant's first year. This is because the plant shoots all the nutrients down to the root in preparation for winter, giving the carrot its best flavor. In fact, it's said that almost every part of this plant is edible. I've also included a link to a video talking more about that, along with links to help you correctly identify Daucus carota. Once again, I cannot stress this enough. Make sure you are entirely and completely confident that you know what plant you have before you try to eat anything. In the United States, Daucus carota can pretty much be seen everywhere. It enjoys open fields, newly disturbed land, ditches, and wastelands. It prefers well-drained soil and lots of sunlight, but it can oftentimes succeed in spite of these conditions not being met. In filming this video, I was amazed by the sheer number of Daucus carota that I saw. I thought, there's no way this plant isn't invasive. And as it was, I was correct. After a little research, I discovered that the Daucus carota is native to northern parts of Asia and southern portions of Europe. The weed made its way to the North American continent, the United States specifically, around 250 years ago, likely mixed in with some cultivated carrot seeds. Many states consider the plant invasive, and some go as far as to label it as noxious. Paraphrasing from the Weed Science Society of America's guide, an invasive weed is one that is able to spread far and wide and outcompete native vegetation. A noxious weed is largely characterized by both the risk it poses to native ecology as well as detrimental impacts on agriculture and recreation. Daucus carota saw widespread success in the Americas. This is in large part due to its successful propagation methods paired with the incredible sizes it can reach in a very short time that can easily outshade native plants in a newly disturbed region. However, with a little time, these areas tend to naturally restore as native grasses and other forms of flora reclaim the zone. And this way, I can understand how the plant could be considered invasive. Next, I'll turn my attention to the noxious aspect of the plant status in many states. In my research, I found an area of particular concern relating to Daucus carota and agriculture. Wild carrots are very closely related to the cultivated carrots we know and eat today. These carrots are so closely related, in fact, that the presence of a wild carrot on a cultivated carrot seed farm could mean the regression of many plants' ability to produce tasty carrots. Some major work was done in this subject by a French family of botanists during the 1800s. I would like to preemptively apologize to anybody who knows the language at all, for I'm about to completely butcher their names. Apologies in advance. First, we can look to the work of Louis Vilmorin. As outlined in the 1901 printing of the Indian Forester, Louis Vilmorin did a lot of preliminary work in demonstrating how quickly cultivated carrots could be brought back to their original form. He attempted this by actively selecting cultivated carrots that resembled the likes of wild carrot. After only a couple years, he bred a carrot, once delicious and large, to resemble the wild carrot. However, his work is criticized as cross-pollinations may have influenced his results. Henry Vilmorin, his son, had done a similar experiment preceding his father that was better controlled for these variables. However, Henry's goal was the opposite of his father's. Instead of breeding something that resembled a wild carrot from a cultivated one, Henry sought out to breed a carrot similar to one that he would have bought at the time from a wild carrot. After only a few crossings, Henry managed to successfully produce a white carrot that quite strongly resembled what most of us would consider to be a carrot today. With this knowledge, the one thing I'm personally left feeling is that I want to breed my own variety of carrot. And that is actually something you can begin to do. I've started to do some research into this topic, but I'd love to dedicate an entire video to the subject, so look out for that in the future. I hope you enjoyed learning about Daucus carota as much as I have. I will certainly look to the wild carrot with a greater appreciation than I had ever had before. Every plant around us has both its stories and its uses, and unless you try to learn about them, you'll never know. I think that's overall the beauty of a world so large and diverse. There's so much to appreciate and learn about. If you folks want to learn more about this magnificent weed, please look to the links in the description down below. I included all the videos and websites I used in researching this video. With all that being said, I'd like to wish you all good growing. Thanks for watching.